Good evening. Thanks so much for this opportunity to the District Attorney's Office. And my name is Francina Evans, and I'm an entrepreneur, former semi-professional athlete, and FDA chemist. My contribution to society has always been to promote health and wellness in our community through fitness and nutrition. I am a victim of domestic violence, litigation abuse, financial abuse, identity theft, slander, ongoing cyber harassment, and was falsely accused of abusing an infant. These crimes committed against me were by the hands of someone who I thought loved me once upon a time. When I decided to end the relationship in February of 2022, I had no idea 14 and a half months later, I'd be standing here in front of you all sharing my story. Domestic violence comes in many forms, to the point in which you have no control over your mind. And then there's something just as sinister, if not more. Mine escalated profusely the moment that couples counseling failed. There was no turning back for me. It was no longer safe. The relationship was beyond repair. But I did not think my freedom would be at stake 3 months later. I dated someone that decided I was property. Towards the end of our relationship, I began to become isolated from my family and friends. I couldn't go to church anymore. It progressed to the extent that I wasn't able to have a mother and a grandmother and being in the relationship simultaneously. I was forced to choose. Forced to part with the puppy that was my best friend for the past 14 months. I was forced to relocate from my home for safety and step down from panels. I cannot even accept a full-time job right now due to the litigation abuse consuming the majority of my time, and not to mention finances. Every single person that I know and love and respect has been slandered and threatened on social media for supporting me on any level, even morally. Sounds like a nightmare, right? It is. For the first 8 months of this nightmare, I was actually viewed by the domestic violence officers as the assailant. They wouldn't take my reports. They called me names such as Amber Heard, and took the other side initially. When they finally realized how their precinct was being manipulated for months, and that I was actually the victim, they apologized and referred me to Safe Horizon. On top of the separation anxiety that I was experiencing from parting with my puppy, something else occurred that didn't even occur to me at the time. During a conversation with my advocates, I was explaining how my photo was being circulated around the internet with a dollar amount by my abuser. Asked me how that impacted me as a Black woman, given the history of slavery as it resembles the wanted posters. I remember saying how humiliated it felt and how it instilled a deep fear. My advocates helped me to recognize how racism and generational trauma was embedded in my response to the domestic violence as a Black woman, and the harm I felt knowing that my abuser was from my own community and people. It led me to understand that although this was traumatic beyond comprehension, I knew this was a starting point to reclaiming my emotional safety and so forth. Although yet, I am forever grateful for the resources that continue to serve as a beacon of light throughout this frightening journey of mine. Thank you so much, District Attorney Michael McMahon, for this opportunity to be in front of you. And now, knowing that you're under the weather, I wish you a safe recovery. Thank you, WARM. We all really matter. Central Family Life Center, True to Life, Legal Aid Society, Family Justice Center, my Bishop, Dr. Victor A. Brown, to the NYPD officers and detectives, my attorneys, to my beloved Staten Island community, close friends and family, and last but not certainly least, to the executive leadership of Safe Horizon. Thank you for the opportunity to bring awareness to the epidemic of litigation abuse, dangerously cloaked in the garments of domestic violence. Raising awareness of domestic violence and legal abuse here on Staten Island. As Stephanie McGraw of WARM puts it, silence hides violence. I had the opportunity to speak at the Civilian Complaint Review Board Town Hall meeting last November and pose a question to the panel in reference to Gabby Petito's story. I was curious to know if anything was done in regards to officers being trained to recognize the signs and red flags of coercive control in domestic violence disputes. I read an article last week that Kira's law was just passed by the Senate and is referred to as Bill C-233. New legislation requires federal judges to be educated on intimate partner and family violence. The law is named after 4-year-old Kira Kagan, who died in 2020 after multiple judges ignored warnings about her father's potential for violence. It requires that judges consider domestic violence and coercive control when issuing decisions. An important aspect of Bill C-233 is its focus on coercive control, a pattern of abusive behavior that isolates a victim and causes them to lose their sense of autonomy. Cases of coercive control may not involve physical violence. They may instead involve emotional abuse, psychological abuse, gaslighting, or financial abuse. Although this bill was passed in Canada, it is my hope that one day it is recognized here with respect to the 5 of my upcoming trials. I am actually looking forward to it and strive to raise awareness through my daily pursuit of finalizing my breakup through the legal system. Because breaking up is not a crime. However, coercive control is. It's also my hope to connect with more women experiencing this dynamic in efforts to encourage and support one another, because I know this is bigger than me. Another aspect I'd like to contribute to this movement is the importance of physical fitness and the role it plays in regulating your nervous system. Nobody talks about how the trauma from domestic violence manifests in our bodies and how it can become stored for years and even decades. I've been running my entire life with Olympic aspirations. I ran over here at Wagner College for 4 years, and recently find myself running to regulate the anxiety bred from this chapter of my story. Now I run for peace, the somatic release, and the sense of safety it brings. And I intend to build a community that can regulate their traumas through running and movement. Thank you so much for this opportunity once again.